Everybody get ready to keep that energy going, okay? And then we can all take a nap before the
Whoa.
nighttime event, okay? Okay, at the count of 3, let's record. Oh, we're recording. Gosh, I didn't even know I hit the button. How wild is that? It's late in the day and it's getting crazy. But this is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I'm reporting live from my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law, where I haven't seen a hide nor hair of anybody for 2 years. So we're having a big book love fest. And right now, we're going to, before we start our blue sky chat, we have the BB Queens, Pulpwood Queens of Jackson, Mississippi. I can't even say it. I'm so overthrown by that last panel. But the BB Queens of Jackson, Mississippi, and Johnny and Brownie started this group, and Brownie actually lives in the Houston area, right? And Johnny's there in Madison. And so I'm going to turn it to you speaking. I want you to tell your story.
Hey, Julia.
Okay, there they are. Tell them where you are.
Julia's from the Jackson area too. We've been friends for years.
Okay,
Well,
wait, let me get y'all pinned.
Yeah, get them pinned. And they're a really big club, you guys. And tell them where you guys meet most of the time.
Well, most of the time we were meeting at Lemuria Bookstore, which is our our fabulous independent bookstore in Jackson, Mississippi. But you know, when COVID hit, we weren't able to do that. We had started when if they have events, if they have book signings, we can't do that because that's the building where they have all the book signings. So we had the Strawberry Cafe is in Madison. So when we can't meet at Lemuria, we generally go for dinner and cocktails at the Strawberry Cafe, cute little place. So, but for many years we've been most of the time at Lemuria.
And then
so if you ever come through Jackson, stop at Lemuria. It's on I-55, and it's worth a stop. It's a really, really good bookstore.
Is it still called Highland Shopping Center?
No, that's across from it. It's at Banner
it's across.
Hall. But yeah, it is. It's Highland Village across the
Highland Village. Yeah.
55. Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, tell your story.
Well, I'm Brownie, and I live in Katy, Texas. And we have a son who has significant disabilities, and we go to a conference about that every other year. Well, I had seen an article in the Houston Chronicle about this lady, and it was all about Kathy and her Pulpwood Queens and the bookstore and the hair salon and all this stuff. So the next conference was in Cleveland. And so I just booked it in because we drive. I booked it into our trip. So we drive up into Jefferson, never been there before. And I go up to the beautiful building that the store, her bookstore's in, and I knock and nobody's there. She's not there. There's a note on the sign that says she's gone to the Rotary Club meeting. So I'm heartbroken, you know, and there's no way we can stay a long time, but it was lunchtime. So we went to the hamburger store. And
where they have the pie,
the pie, right. So we got the kids in and we're just finishing up, and there's this woman who shows up at the cash register, and we're sitting right by the cash register. And I look up and I know immediately that it's Kathy Murphy and Patrick at the time. And so I jump up and introduce myself and all this stuff. And so it made it up for her not being in the shop. But she told me at that moment about the girlfriend weekend. I haven't been drinking that long, I promise.
We're on our first one.
What's wrong with you?
But she told me about girlfriend weekend and said, it's this coming January, and this was in August, and you better be there. And I was like, well, I will be, and so will my best friend. I came home, I think in the car probably on the way home. I called Johnny and said, we are going to Jefferson, Texas in January. And she was like, what?
And then I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. So that's how we found out about girlfriend weekend, was because I guess because my son has a disability.
Well, I've got a question real quick. How did you know that it was Kathy L. Murphy?
I think there was actually a picture in the article in the Chronicle. So, but I would have known just by the way she was talking to people, I'm sure. So anyway, that's how we got to Girlfriend Weekend. And it was like,
I'm a talker. I'm a talker, and I know they broke the mold when they made me, but thank God you guys have stuck with me 20 years, y'all.
Yeah, well, but it was a great thing because we lived 10 hours or 12 hours from each other, basically, still do. But we were able to kind of meet in the middle for several years in January. And then, we ended up starting the BB Queens. And then that first year, all of this group and, a whole bunch more. Karen Reed was talking last night on here, and she was part of it. They, in the last, right before COVID, after Girlfriend Weekend 19 or 20. Yeah, when they came home, they are in a different county, and their county is dry. And so, they decided that they would enjoy it more if they were able to stay and not have to cross county lines. So the ones that live in that area, they started meeting in that area, and the rest of us, and we've added a few members here and there too, but the rest of us are generally in either Hinds or Madison County, which are the 3 counties in the Jackson metro area. And
when I went on book tour, I went there and stayed at Susan, who's putting the peon chair in the back. I stayed at Susan's fabulous home in one of your kids' rooms, right? I stayed in, it's a trip, y'all. And I think I came through with Tawana and we met you in Pearl, Mississippi to have some
for lunch. Yeah.
So anyway, this is an excellent example of our book club readership. So I just want you to see their beautiful faces. And now we're going to.
Yeah, and also we're vendors now. Also, we started a little company called Two Friends in a Boutique, and I know you've got to get to it. But one of our things that we have loved so much over the years is getting to be friends with all of these authors.
Absolutely.
And I mean, we stay in touch with so many, even the ones that aren't involved anymore. They're doing their own thing now. We stay and we are good friends with so many of the authors, and continue to help promote their books. Amongst other people that we know.
They did a booth in 2020 and they brought these leopard coats.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how many of them I bought, but I wanted one for each of my daughters and my cousin.
Oh my gosh, I reordered them like 4 times after the.
Can you still get those leopard coats?
I don't know. I'll have to look and see.
Check it out. Let me know. But we got to
they're
get
soft and they're gorgeous and they're not expensive.
I'm going to show it before this panel's over. But in the meantime, thank you, girls, for your support. And now we've got the Blue Sky Chat authors here, and let's get them introduced. So big applause to the BB Queen. Okay, I'm going to go back to gallery, and who's going to be speaking for your group starting out? Marilyn, is it going to be Carrie Schaefer, of course.
Carrie Schaefer.
Carrie. As they get on board, let's pin them, Mandy. So we got Carrie and Marilyn and Patricia and Barbara and
Lainey.
And who am I missing? Lainey. Okay. All righty. Well, let's go to speaker view and let's begin this last panel of our second day. Okay.
Yay! Hey, everybody. I'm Carrie Schaefer. I write as Carrie Schaefer and as Carrie Ann King, but that's not why I'm here today. I provide behind the scenes services as author genie for the Blue Sky Book Chat and some other authors. So I get to hang out with cool kids today as their moderator. So this is fun and awesome. So the Blue Sky Book Chat, for anybody who doesn't know, is a Facebook group that is presided over by 10 lovely award-winning authors who write all different kinds of books. We have only 4 of them here today because we couldn't get everybody. I'm going to introduce them all to you in a minute. I'm just thinking, let's see, what else do we do in Blue Sky? We like to discuss favorite books with fans and friends. We do lives. We have author interviews. Anything else I'm forgetting, you guys? We just had a
we
huge
do-
cabin fever event that was really
Yeah,
multi-authors.
that was great.
Yeah.
And we do readings. Sometimes we do Wednesday readings as well, I think.
Right.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. All kinds of fun stuff, launches, all kinds of fun.
Right. So we love to have readers come join us and other authors also. So let's talk about the authors that are here today. So I'm in no particular order of importance because they're all equally awesome. We're going to start with Marilyn Simon Rothstein. I never know Marilyn. I'm sorry.
Rothstein. My brother-in-law is Rothstein, but we're Roth.
Okay. You're a Steen. Okay, got it.
Steen,
Sorry about
talking
that.
to him, say Rothstein.
Marilyn is largely known for having the longest name to try and fit into all the promotional things we do on the group. But not really. I'm kidding, because she's you might have heard of her since she was the keynote speaker here the very, very first morning to get things started here, and has been going, I know, to the Pulpwood Queen's Girlfriend Weekends for quite a while, I believe. Marilyn is also the author of Lift and Separate, Husbands and Other Sharp Objects, and the upcoming Crazy to Leave You, which I just noticed Amazon is actually up on Amazon with a pre-order link. So yay, we're excited about that book. I got to read it and it's lovely. Then we have Patricia Sanz. Hi, Patricia.
Hi.
Patricia is currently freezing and half buried in the Canadian white wilderness. I don't know where you are anymore. You're like near Toronto, but you moved.
Yep, I'm 2 hours north of Toronto in the Blue Mountains.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, it's no longer blue. It's white, right?
Oh, no, definitely white.
And you were skiing before you came down here and put on your tiara
Yeah.
today.
Yes.
Marilyn's heart, or not Marilyn, sorry, Patricia's heart is actually not in Canada, but in the south of France, which is where most of her stories are set. And you will find when COVID is over, back pre-COVID, in the days before when we could do things, Patricia used to take authors, oh, there's your lavender behind you, that's beautiful. Used to take authors on a tour of the south of France and is hoping to get back to doing that again because how cool. And now I want to go because I know you. She is the author of The Bridge Club, Drawing Lessons, the Promise of Provence series, and the Villa de Violette trilogy. Did I get them all? Did I miss anything?
You did. Well done.
Thank you so much. I'm glad they're not more French because my accent is forgotten. I'm also Canadian and I used to be better at the French. Then we have our lovely Lainey Cameron.
Hey, everybody.
Lainey is in Mexico, right?
That's right. I'm in San Miguel de Allende in the mountains, right in the middle of the country.
Right. So you are not buried in snow right now. Lainey is a digital nomad, which means she gets to travel around all over the place instead of being stuck in one location like most of the rest of us. She is a recovering tech industry executive who used to work in Silicon Valley and was often like the only woman in a conference room. And she has written about that in her very brilliant debut novel, The Exit Strategy, which has now won like a gazillion awards, right, Lainey?
I think it's at 12, which
At
just blew my
12,
mind.
okay. And 12 to me is a gazillion. Every time I turn around, Lainey has another award for that book. So, and it is, I love the book is different because it deals with women in the conference room. And that was a hard thing for editors to get their minds around for some reason, that we as women would all want to read about that. So Lainey persevered and the book is out there, which is awesome. I know you were working on something else. Do you have is there anything you can say about that yet, or are we still too early?
Oh, sure. It's about a digital nomad. Inspiration always comes from real life. Adventure travel Instagrammer. So the kind of person you see in those Instagram photos who's like flying off the top of mountains and base jumping and all the fun stuff, except that she has a secret dark past.
Yay! I'll read it.
It's
That sounds fun.
wonderful, everybody. That book is wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
And then we have Barbara Davis. You may have heard of a couple of little books that Barbara has written. One of them is called The Last of the Moon Girls, and the other one is called The Keeper of Happy Endings. These books have occupied space at the top of the Kindle store for like way longer than is fair for the rest of us, just saying. No, I'm just kidding. They deserve it. They're brilliant. It's really wonderful, and it's exciting to see them there. You've also, Barbara, I tried to count like 6 other books on top of your...
7 total, working on number 8 now.
Right. Okay. And several translated into other languages, and
I think I'm up to like 18 languanges now, which is pretty exciting.
Wow.
If someone ever told me that would happen, I'm just thrilled to be published in English. So
Yeah.
you know, everything else is great.
But aren't those covers just so fun in the other languages? They're so cool.
I love it. It's always such a surprise because it's always such a unique interpretation. You know, some of them stick really close, but then some of them are just out of left field, and they're still beautiful and they still work.
Right. Yeah. I wish I could read them in the foreign languages. I want someone to put one of mine in French so I could actually read it, but you know, that's not happening. So
French read English, so it's not a big drive. I'm big in the Slavic countries.
Yeah.
Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Lithuania. They love me there. No idea.
Well, which is cool. So Barbara came last in this little introduction because it's the natural segue, because we're going to talk about magic. And Barbara is the one of these members of Blue Sky that writes kind of outright more magical books. But all books are magic because we're weaving a world for readers. We're creating something out of nothing. And part of that magic is a little something called voice. And I have something for you all today. This is really fun. I found this. So it goes with the crown, right? So magic. We're talking about the magic of voice. And sometimes it's a little confusing. What do we mean by voice as authors? And really, it's that exactly what it sounds like. So, you know, when your best friend calls you on the phone and does not identify herself, and you didn't look at caller ID, and you know exactly who it is because of the way she talks and the tone of her voice and the expressions that she uses. It's exactly like that when you pick up a book. If you pick up one of Patricia's books and read a page, you're definitely going to know that you are not reading Marilyn Simon Rothstein book. And if you pick up a Barbara Davis book, you're going to know right away that you're not reading a Lainey Cameron book, because their voice on the page comes through really loud and clear. And this is something I very, very much love about these authors. They all have very distinctive voices. So in order to get you a feel of that today, they're all going to read a little selection for you from their books. And then we're going to talk about how that's different. And then we're going to have a little conversation about voice with these authors, about how they come up with the voice for their stories. And we'll open it up to the end, at the end, for some comments and questions from you guys. And I will also be scanning the chat here to see if there's anything in there as we go. So I did not pick an order for everybody to read. I did not warn them. So it's kind of like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It's like, who am I mad at today? I'm just kidding. I don't know. Lainey, you're up.
Okay, sure. All right, so my book is about a wife and a mistress who meet each other across the negotiating table. So imagine that the first character, she's at the brink of like getting that big promotion she's always wanted. She's getting ready to walk into the meeting, and she realizes that this woman called Carly has the same name as her husband's mistress. And she hasn't even talked to the husband yesterday. She just found out yesterday that the husband's cheating. And so this is the section, very beginning of the book, first chapter, where she just realized that this woman she's meeting in 5 minutes has the same name, Carly. Her fingers flipped to the section of the folder with management biographies. A photo of Carly Santos, BioLarge's co-founder and chief scientist, smiled next to a biography full of patents and achievements. Carly. Rin's skin prickled like the moment you notice inconsistencies in a company's accounts, or at night when you cross the road to avoid the man with the neck tattoo and he follows you. She studied the photo. Carly was a common enough name. There must be hundreds, thousands of women named Carly in the Bay Area. Big doe eyes stared at her with a warmth that never showed in Rin's photos. Her steely pose in leadership shots had become an office joke, with the other male partners pushing her to smile just this once. But grinning on demand wasn't how a woman got taken seriously in a world where testosterone dripped down the walls. She ran her finger along Carly's waves of chestnut brown hair and studied the dimples in her smile. Ms. Santos was gorgeous in an unassuming, wouldn't steal your husband kind of way. This woman, this professional, couldn't be Todd's Carly. That would be ridiculous. Spanish soap opera ridiculous. Trashy television ridiculous. And I'll stop there because we said we're just going to give you a little taste of how our voice comes across in each book and talk about how they differ.
One thing I love about that, Lainey, about your voice in that is it takes me right there into the boardroom. So, and it does two things. So even though I have not ever been the person in a boardroom, I really get the feeling of what that's like, because you've taken that situation and then connected it to things that I do know, which is discovering that error, big error of some kind, or seeing the creepy guy across the street and needing to move. And so you bring us in as a reader right into that world right with you. It's very nicely done.
And we'll talk more about that. It was actually kind of fun and a challenge for me, because one of the things when you're writing about a world that not everybody lives in is you have to work out what is obvious and what is not to your reader. And things that were very obvious to me, as I had beta readers read this book, I would get feedback like, we don't understand what you're talking about, Lainey. And I'd be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have to explain that more. So it was very fun working through like that question of, you want to take people inside a world, but that's not everything is going to be obvious to your reader, and you have to work out when you need to explain.
Right. Very true. I think for all of us, but some more than others. And I think since we're talking about that, creating that world, I think the next reader should be Patricia, because that's the big thing that Patricia needs to do when she takes us into the south of France, because that's one of the, if you read any of Patricia's books that are set in France, you're there. It makes you feel like, well, you're hanging out in France, which is awesome.
And which is what I hope to do when I write my books, because I've had a lifelong love affair with the south of France. And had I not, I probably never would have started writing novels. So it's, sharing that love of that beautiful part of the world with other readers. In a way, I've, worked myself into a specific niche group. But there are people who love the south of France as much as I do. And so it gives me a great deal of pleasure to write about it. And then I also get to do a tour every year, as Carrie said, leading groups of women on a tour that's based on my book. So that is something that I never imagined happening. And it's just been really fun and exciting to do. So I have a little excerpt from the Promise of Provence, which was my first novel set there, and it's book number 1 of a trilogy. And it's about the protagonist is Catherine Price. She's in her mid-50s, lives in Toronto, has been married for many years unhappily, doesn't have any children, and she came home on her 22nd wedding anniversary, actually, one day, expecting to go out for a special dinner, and instead found a note from her husband saying that he was leaving her. So the story goes on, and eventually she is convinced by some very good friends to organize a home exchange in Provence. And she does that. She's never been there before. And that is just the beginning of a whole new life that she enters into. And my husband and I have done 17 home exchanges. So again, as Lainey was saying, you write what you know, being the digital nomad. That was something that I enjoyed sharing with readers too. So anyway, here's Catherine, and she's picked up a rental car, and at the just getting off the train in Avignon, and she's driving to a small village where she is going to spend 2 weeks in a 200-year-old farmhouse. And she's been driving along and she's found herself in a roundabout, which, as many of you may know, can be confusing at the best of times. And when you're in a foreign country, it's even more confusing. I've spent a number of had a number of experiences going around several times before I finally figured out which exit to take. So Catherine is leaving the more urban area. Catherine encountered her first challenge, roundabouts. Les ronds-points, she reminded herself. Think in French here. Holding her breath, she entered as confidently as possible, and as the GPS directed, made a left at the second exit. The vehicles already circling have the right-of-way, she had read. After a few more, Catherine felt she had them mastered. Oops, perhaps not, she muttered, as she found herself not quite sure of her exit in a later one. Shifting gears hesitantly and going around a second time, someone swerved in front of her right, cutting off her exit, and around she went again. Oh, brother, I'm having a Griswold moment, she sighed, remembering European Vacation, which she had watched with her nephews and nieces many times. Once you learn to, then I go on about driving a stick shift, which I'll just leave out here. Leaving the more urban area. Oh, wait a minute. I just read that. Geez, sorry. Now, here we are. I had to get my phone to read because I have my book here with the excerpt, and I realized my lighting isn't bright enough. So I had to dash and get the phone, and I read everything on my phone anyway. I'm a digital reader. So the roads gradually became narrower and less busy, which allowed her to take a longer look at the pastoral countryside. As she rounded a corner, cresting a small hill, she suddenly pulled the car to the side of the road and burst into tears. In front of her was a postcard scene from Provence in June. An enormous field of golden sunflowers glistened with an intensity that was hard to believe, as if someone had plastered a Visit Provence poster smack in her face. To one side was the classic Ma, a farmhouse with its outbuildings, the shades of the yellow-gray limestone farm structure softened by the mid-afternoon sun. Traditional weathered blue shutters on the south-facing windows and doors were flung open on this fine day. It was a scene Catherine had admired in so many books and movies. She couldn't begin to count the number of images exactly like this that had filled her computer screen in the past month. And now, there it was. And there she was, overwhelmed by the moment.
Beautiful.
That's how she started.
And we're right there. And we have a comment here from Susan, who says that there's a roundabout near their place, and she's lived there for 10 years, but still always a little nervous about going round and round. My mother-in-law got on one of those and went the wrong way once. But anyway, I like your description of the scenery. That's just lovely.
Thanks.
So now for something really different. We're going to go to Marilyn, who has a very, very different voice. It's funny, it's witty, it's a little bit snarky even at times, I might dare say. So Marilyn, it's your turn, and you're reading from Husbands and Other Sharp Objects, right? You're muted, Marilyn, my dear. You're muted.
I am now unmuted.
Perfect.
Yes.
My children would prefer I was muted. Anyway, I'm reading from my second book, which is Husbands and Other Sharp Objects. I just happen to have it here.
Accidentally.
Some little miracle. And I was thinking, I would like my book translated into a foreign language like Barbara. And I was thinking Hebrew, because then I could use my book as a prayer book. So, I'm just going to hope for that. But here, this is about Marcy, who's the main character in Husbands. And she's at a brunch the morning of her daughter's wedding. Her daughter is marrying her almost ex-husband's lawyer, which I would think must be incest somehow. And her ex-husband has had a heart attack. She goes downstairs for brunch. I went to the outrigger for brunch. Cousin Leona flitted by. She was wearing a maxi dress and holding a platter of food. I said hello, and she said, what a shame Harvey gave himself a heart condition. All those big meals. Was she blaming Harvey's heart attack on Harvey? Or worse, was she blaming me? So Harvey wasn't the president of Weight Watchers, and I wasn't the chef at Canyon Ranch. Had Leona never heard of genetics? Harvey did not give himself a heart attack, I told her. People become ill for all kinds of reasons. Overeating being one of them. By the way, she continued, can you pass the chocolate milk? Right there and then, I decided I was too old to waste time with people I don't like. She's your cousin, I heard my mother say from heaven. Be the bigger one. Mom, I am being the bigger one. How's that, Mom asked from on high. I am about to hand her a chocolate milk, and I'm not going to pour it on her head. I turned from Leona to see my brother Max. In high school, Max was voted most likely to be convicted of a white-collar crime. Listen, Marcy, he said, I was sorry to hear about Harvey. That guy, he always ate like a horse.
Very, very funny. Lainey commented she had to mute herself so we wouldn't hear her laughing.
Oh, I would have loved to hear her laugh.
So as you can hear, the voice in a Marilyn book is going to take you into a world that for me is fascinating because this is New York, Brooklyn, wherever. I'm a northern girl. So this is really exotic for me. And you take us right there with the way people talk and where they hang out. And then there's your sense of humor, which also comes through very clearly in your voice. So all very fun. And you've done that with your new book too, yes. with a very different kind of voice.
My new book, I talked about it on Tuesday morning, because it's called Crazy to Leave You. And it's about a 40-year-old advertising professional who is everything she ever wanted, but she wants to get married and have a family. And everything's all set when the groom texts her sister to tell her, even though she's standing there in her wedding gown and 200 people are waiting for her to walk down the aisle, that he's in Starbucks and he ain't leaving Starbucks. So she gets very upset because she hears him talking at Starbucks and she's thinking, what he's not even concerned here. Well, he's just giving the lock number to someone who wants to go to the bathroom, but she needs to proceed. And so she loses the guy, but she finds herself, and it's coming out in May, but here's my favorite word, pre-order.
Okay, very, very nice. Thank you, Marilyn, for that little gratuitous.
You're a trip.
Just kidding. So it's quite a gift. Somebody said, Zoe says, love your humor, a true talent to make people laugh out loud. Really true. And that is a thing that your books do. And then we move to Barbara Davis, who again has a very different kind of voice altogether. It's a little bit magical, a little bit lyrical, harder for me to actually put my finger on right this minute. If we have time, we'll talk about maybe that's why, because Barbara has a fun little thing that happens in her head when she's writing. But let's hear a little outtake from your story, Barbara.
Okay, so I'm going to read from The Keeper of Happy Endings, which is actually was my first official foray into historical fiction. It's a dual timeline about two women from very different backgrounds, very different generations. One side of the story is set in France in late 30s, early 40s. The other is in Boston in 85. And these two women's lives kind of come together in very strange, kind of a magical way. But the passage that I'm going to read is from the prologue, and it is kind of takes you a little bit forward into the story. It's kind of a promise that I make as I do in my prologues. about what else is coming. And this is a moment where she is kind of looking back at a box full of memories. September 1976, Boston. I have always grieved the end of things, the final notes of a song as they ebb into silence, the curtain falling at the end of a play, the last snowflake, goodbyes. So many goodbyes. They all seem so long ago now, and yet the collective rawness still chafes. I've had too much wine tonight, I think. It has made me morose, or perhaps I've simply had too much life, too much sadness, too many
What,
sorrows.
Sarah?
Uh-oh. Somebody needs to mute.
Still, I find myself drawn to those scars, a map of wounds that take me neither forward nor back. I've brought the box down from the closet again and laid it on the bed. It isn't heavy in the physical sense, but the memories inside carry a different kind of weight, the kind that sits heavily on the heart. It's made of sturdy stuff, thick gray cardboard with metal fittings at the corners and a heavy cord threaded through as a handle. I hold my breath as I lift the lid and fold back layers of crumpled tissue to gaze at the dress within. It is aged over the years, like me. The packet of letters is there too, most in French, a few in English, tied with a single length of ribbon. These I will read later, as I often do on nights like this, when the empty places in my life stretch like shadows all around me. There's an order to this ritual of mine, a sequence I never vary. When so much has been uprooted, so many things lost, one must seek comfort in rituals, even the sad ones.
So beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, such a wonderful story.
Can you tell I like wine? I worked it into the worked it right into the prologue. Didn't even wait for chapter 1, right in the prologue.
I know you guys have wine. I want some too. Unfair. It's okay. I have coffee here somewhere. So, as you can hear, it's a very, very different kind of a sound. It's not just that it's not funny. It's the way Barbara puts the words together. It's the way Patricia puts words together, and Lainey and Marilyn. We all have a love affair with words, I think. Well, you have to, as a writer. If you don't love words, why are we doing this, right? So, but we have a love affair with different words and the way those words go together, which is what makes our voice so unique, just like a fingerprint. So when we were preparing for this, before we got here today, we had a little conversation that was really fascinating, which was really about how the voice comes to you and where that comes from. So we asked first, this question: what comes first for you, the idea or the voice? And I think that we're just going to go ahead and try and have that conversation again. Although once you've had a conversation, it never comes out the same a second time. So who knows what's actually going to pop up today. So let's start with Patricia. I'm going to ask you first. What comes first for you, the idea or the voice, when you sit down to write a book?
Yeah, I think there's no question for me. It's the idea. And the idea within me is so visual. And part of the explanation for that is that I've also been a lifelong photographer. And so through all my travels, I have taken a bazillion photos. And it's often some of those photos that begin the thought of the story for me. And then the characters develop from what is happening within those photos. So photography for sure is very important to how my stories develop.
Right. Well, and that actually really makes sense because you really do a lot of imagery and immerse us in that for sure. Marilyn, what about you? Marilyn, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
For me, I hear the voice, but more than the voice, I hear the thought. I hear this character thinking about her situation and how she's going to deal with it. And I love putting a woman in a situation where she has to, on her own, pick herself up and make something of the tragedy. So I combine the humor with also the sadness that causes humor. And I definitely hear the voice first. I totally am a pantser. I just do not outline. If I had to outline, it would take longer than it would take to write the book. So anyway, I hear the voice, and that's the answer to your question, I guess.
Yeah. Great. Well, and that comes through loud and clear in the voice. I just had to say real quick, I think I love that. That's one of the things that I really do love about your books, is that the humor is covering the sadness. It's kind of like a defense mechanism almost for these people. This is how they deal. And so your books make me kind of want to cry and laugh at the same time. It's not slapstick. It's not just all lighthearted, ha ha ha. I laugh out loud, but I also feel, all the other feels.
Well,
Yeah, Carrie,
that's
for sure.
wonderful to hear. That's wonderful to hear.
One thing when we're talking about how hilarious parts of Marilyn's stories are, that right from Lift and Separate, right from the beginning, whenever I've mentioned Marilyn's stories to anybody, I always say that for as funny and hilarious as they can be, they are also incredibly poignant.
Yeah.
That
I love you, Patricia.
Well, we
I
have
wanna
this
marry
love
you.
fest,
I
but
want to marry all four of you.
Hey, you were supposed to marry me. You were supposed to marry me.
okay, we'll fight about this later. But I'm sure we can come to
We're
summer.
kind of married. We all get together in Blue Sky Chat and hang out all the time. So
That's
it's
true.
close.
Wives. Just
I'm
a
waiting for
marriage.
Lainey to come back from Mexico so we can get married.
I'm wearing my wedding crown. I'm ready.
You are. Okay, so since you're wearing your wedding crown, Miss Lainey, which I think is just so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
What about you? Is it voice first or idea first for you?
Idea first, but voice is what makes the book. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So with my first book, The Exit Strategy, the idea was I want to write a story about a wife and a mistress who are forced to work together. So they find out that one's wife and one's the mistress, neither of them knew, and then they can't get away from each other. And so the idea came first. But then I said, where am I going to set it? And I said, well, I should set it in Silicon Valley because that's where I've worked my whole career. And then the book is full of sexism, and the voice is very much the characters dealing with that sexism. But that actually was never my intent. I didn't sit down and say, I'm going to write a feminist missive about sexism in Silicon Valley. It just kind of ended up happening because that was my life experience, and my voice wove its way into the book. And I'm finding the same things happening with my second book. It started with an idea for a plot. It actually started with the idea, and I'll tell you this because it won't be in the book, interestingly. It started with the idea that you've got this digital nomad who's kind of like Patricia. She's setting up her camera for a camera shoot, and she accidentally captures a murder, someone pushing someone else off a cliff. That was the idea. But here's the thing, the more I actually dug into the background of the character on why this was such a big deal that she couldn't be in the media if this murder came out, the more her backstory started talking to me, and she had these dark secrets. And by the end of it, I was like, this character has so much voice and I have so much to say in this book that the murder's just a distraction. It doesn't belong. And so it's funny that the very idea that started the book is gone from the book. The book doesn't have the murder in it anymore. So I think it starts for me with an idea, but actually the voice and the character kind of is what pushes it to be the book it wants to be at the end of the day, if that makes any sense.
That's so fast. Okay, I got to wave the magic wand again, partly because I can, but partly because it's magic, right? Like sometimes, like no matter what we mean to do, when we sit down and start writing, something happens. There's chemistry or alchemy or something that you didn't see coming, and you always end up with something different than you thought you were gonna, even no matter how much plotting you may have done at the beginning. I gotta look here. There's a comment from somebody real quick. Susan Cushman says, Patricia Sanz's voice in The Bridge Club is powerful. Although there are light moments in the relationships between the women in the book, her voice remains serious, so the reader trusts her as she deals with a serious and controversial topic. Yeah, that's also very true. The Bridge Club, by the way, everybody, has written stories woven together of a group of women who meet regularly to play bridge, and the way that their life stories meet and intertwine.
It's fabulous. It's like Sisterhood of the Thingy
Oh, yeah,
Pants,
the
but for
traveling-
grown-ups.
Yep. Yeah.
Traveling Pants,
Yes,
but
yeah.
better because it's written for grown-ups. It's
Yes.
so good. It's so
But
good.
it's sort of funny because, I mean, that was my first novel. And it's, and I didn't realize I was even going to publish it. So I won't get into all that. But I mean, it's totally set in Canada. And then after that, because people started writing to me about what else have I written, and then I decided I was going to set my books in France, and then, well, that was the end of that. I mean, or the beginning of that. And so when I did the 10th anniversary edition of the Bridge Club last year, actually had some of the ladies 10 years later actually go to France, so that
So
so
you
there's
could,
a little bit of
loved
France
that.
in there too.
okay.
I was like jumping up and down when I saw that. It's like right at the end. And I was like, they're in the same guest house. It's so clever the way you did that.
Yeah,
Very-
it was fun.
Okay, I'm looking at the clock and I'm going, oh my God, where did the time go? So very, very fast. Barbara, my love, what about you? 'Cause I found this really fascinating when we were talking. What comes first for you, the idea or the voice?
The idea always comes first, and usually it comes kind of like all at once in like a rush of just a whoosh. It's not there 1 minute and then it's there, and I have to hurry, scurry to get it down because I'm afraid it will leave me if I don't pay attention to it. So I have kind of this whole wholesale idea that I start with. Most of the time I don't know where it comes from. And then the voice, then I have to kind of go chase the right voice. I mean, as authors, we all have kind of a consistent voice that runs through all our books. When you read Marilyn, you're reading Marilyn. When you read Patricia, you're reading Patricia. But I think each of us, because our books are about different people who've lived different lives and had different experiences, those voices, if they're a narrating character, kind of have to be tweaked and very personalized. And that's to me, that is the magic part for me, is going to find who that person is and what they sound like. And sometimes it's a struggle. You try several things and it doesn't work, but then when you find it, they just won't shut up. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful magic. Like, keep talking, keep talking.
Now, there was something else you said that was really interesting about you and the way the words go together and the music that came with and
yes.
all of
Well,
that.
This is the little crazy part of me. This is like true confessions. I have a music background. I was in music theater and sang semi-professionally for years. So everything goes back to music for me. Almost all of my books, even though I can't write with music on, there's sort of a soundtrack that runs through the books. It's just a big part of my life. And I didn't realize it for a long time. And then all of a sudden I realized part of the reason that it takes me so flipping long to write certain passages is because I'm in my mind, I'm sort of setting them to music, which I don't write music. I can only sing. I play no instruments, but there's like this constant metronome in my head. Every word, every syllable, they have beats, and there's only so many beats you can fit in a measure. And if it doesn't balance out, something's got to go, so that I'm tweaking the beginning and I'm tweaking the end. So a lot of my voice, what you would think of as my writer voice, comes from this metronomic kind of cadence that is always there. And the dissonance that I feel when something's off and I have to go back and just tweak, which makes people crazy. Makes my husband crazy. It's like, it's all right, leave it alone. He doesn't get it because he doesn't feel that weird thing.
Right. That's fascinating. Kim Davis says it's like synesthesia, and she does it too, she says.
Yeah, Barbara, you make your words sing.
Yes.
You really do.
Yeah.
And what amazes me in all your novels is the variety. The different storylines that you come up with and the different types of characters. It's
I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
amazing.
That's why we're all writers, I think.
That's right. I keep living vicariously through all my characters. I get to do a little bit of everything.
right. Well, I think we need to stop there actually. So I'm taking it back to Kathy, and thank you all for
Thank
being
you.
such
Thanks for coming,
wonderful-
I'm
everybody.
gonna put it back on gallery. Thank you all, Blue Sky Chat. Thank you, Johnny, for sharing about your book club. I just want to mention one thing. I was just on the phone with one of my Pulpwood queens from Houston, Texas, Christy Borden, and she just finished The Keeper of Happy Endings. And she said, Kathy, I finished this book, and do you know what? And I go, what? She's going to be here. She goes, oh, fantastic. She goes, you're mentioned in the book, and so are the Pulpwood queens in the acknowledgments. And I said, you know, that is, thank you. Thank you.
How could I
so
not?
much.
With all you, how can I not? With all you do for us, all of us.
Well,
Selfless.
oftentimes I don't even know until somebody tells me. I mean, I had somebody tell me I was in Julie Cantrell's, and I go, oh my God. But the thing about it is, I appreciate that so much. And I think it's wonderful that our readership, our book club members are reading the acknowledgments. You know, because I read who it's dedicated to, I read the acknowledgments, I read everything. But she was just loved the book. And so, and I know everybody loves every one of you as authors, and I just cannot thank you enough for supporting my book club and for everything you're doing to promote literacy. And I just thank you so much. We'll continue the chat for questions and everything later tonight, because tonight we're doing the, at 7 o'clock, we're going to be introducing our International Book Club Books of the Year. And I will tell you, I'm not doing the introductions. We have invited Claire Fullerton to come back and do it because she did such a marvelous job last night that Mandy said, you know, Kathy, I know you were going to do this. And I said, you know what? I agree. Claire Fullerton is our best friend. So she'll be here back tonight. Bring your favorite beverage, whatever it may be, and bring it with you, and we will celebrate tonight. We're going to have, you know, multiple sessions. So, but it's happy hour. Bring your drinks. We're going to meet back at 7 o'clock. And then after it's all over, if you guys want to do a little bit more, everybody's saying they like the readings. So if you wanted to read a little short, you know, something tonight at the happy hour, share a story. We want the readers to jump in and join us and maybe tell their favorite reads that they've read through the 22 years of doing the Pulpwood Queens. We want everybody to join the conversation, because our branding that we have for the Pulpwood Queens is that we bring our authors and our readers into the conversation. And like Patricia said about photography, I love to take photos too. In fact, my family hates me for how many photos I take. But when you read a book by yourself, you get a one-dimensional look. When you discuss it with another person, you get a two-dimension. But when you bring the author into the conversation, it's like it fully develops into this wonderful view of that book. So thank you all. We're on our second day. It's awesome. Get everybody on board. We're trying to get 1,000 members before the end of the week. We are well over 900. We're getting close. So bring some people in to join us, or join our book club, and let's keep this conversation going, because this is what makes, especially during the time of COVID, this is what makes it so important, is that we are engaging with each other and sharing each other's lives and sharing each other's
on our
stories.
Facebook page.
Go ahead, Mandy. What'd you say?
1,000 followers on our Facebook page. We have over 1,000 members. But we're trying to get our social media, because this is the only way we can talk to each other is social media. So
right. So get back online, join the official Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys book club group page. And thank you so much for a wonderful day. Is this fun?
Yes.
So we'll
Another
see you
great
back here at
day.
7 o'clock tonight. let's go international, shall we? I have something special to wear. Wouldn't you know it? So we'll see you tonight.
Okay.
I might have
Bye.
several things to wear.
Bye,
So,
everyone.
Oh,
bye,
Lord. Bye.
everybody.
Fantastic
I
panel.
love y'all. Bye-bye.
And we love you.